Alright, for today I am bringing back the Orks, but this time I'm bringing Gazgul Thraka. And so today I brought 2,000 points of Orks in a brigade, which is why I have so many Gretchen. So I never brought Gazgul before, so he's going to be the linchpin of my army. And so I require 3 HQ, so I brought Makari as an HQ and not as a non-force organizations chart, because you could do that, and a Pain Boy to keep healing Gazgul up. That's my HQs. As for troops, I'm required to bring a minimum of 6 troops, and for points, I just brought 6 units of Gretchen. And their job is to do actions and hold points. That's it. And now, over to elites. I have to take a minimum of 3, but I went overboard, so I have 3 units of commandos at 6 men each. These guys are going to be my forward advance. And I have Burna Boys. I have a total of 7 Burnas and the Spanner with a big shooter. These guys will be in a truck, and the truck will be going around and they'll just be shooting. So on a heavy, an armored moving platform. And then a bunch of knobs. So I have 9 knobs here total. So I have 1 boss knob, and I have 3 knobs that have power claws. So 4 have power claws total. The 5s have choppas. So they're the chaff. Then I have 3 units of fast attack, which is Storm Boys, and units of 6 in case I wanted to do Knocked, or the new Rod. And they don't have anything special, so they're just really advanced movement. It'll depend on like how the game goes or stuff like that. They can either get behind enemy lines, or they can do Knocked for me. Then for heavy support, I have 3 individual Def Dreads. The front one has Orkimatic Pistons, which gives it extra movement. And it has only claws, so this thing has like 7 attacks, I believe so, or it's like 6 or 7. And then I have these 2 Def Dreads. They are alike. They have 2 claws each and 2 scorches, so they're melee, but they're also ranged. Good heavy flaming firepower. And then for transport, I have a red truck to go with the Burna Boys. They have squig high tires, so this will move more and can has an extra like 2 inches on its run, so since they have all assault weapons, it actually works perfectly. And then the gold truck for the knobs. And that is 2,000 points of a battalion of Goths. And yeah, so far so good. Alright, so one thing happened is when I was building this army, there's no model for Boss Zagstruck, and I forgot to mention him because didn't have the model. But essentially, so I have a 4th character, Boss Zagstruck of the Goths, and he is a jetpack trooper. Since he didn't have a model, and I just somehow forgot to build him up in there, I already paid for him, so I cloned a boss knob to make up for it. So this is Boss Zagstruck, and I have his stats on the side. So I have 4 characters now. And that is my 2,000 points.
Alright, you guys, so today I am playing Aeldari. They're a bit new, so it'll be exciting. I am playing Aeldari. I figured I'd start with each of the major craft worlds before I do anything crazy. So I start with Aeldari, and they're very sneaky and ranger oriented, so I figured, I'll have their character guy. So he is also my warlord, which means he has Mark of the Incomparable Hunter, which gives his gun an extra +1 strength, and does a mortal wound on a wound roll of 6 in addition to any normal damage, and he already does on average D3 mortal wounds every shot, so it'll be interesting in addition to his regular damage. So super cool. My other HQ is a Farseer because I'm Aeldari, and that's just what you do. She has the relic of the army, so she has the shift shroud of Alan Sayre. And basically when she's in cover, she can't be shot at unless it's the closest eligible target, or the model is within 12 inches, or both, I suppose. But yes. Then I have 3 squads of rangers. These are all 5. They don't have the additional things that they have 2 optional items. They don't have this. So these are 2 squads of 5, and this is 1 squad of 10 that will be in what's that word? I'm gonna webway strike these guys because they're sneaky. And then I have 2 squads of that's it for my troops, by the way. Moving into elites, I have 2 squads of striking scorpions because they seem kind of crazy in this book, so I'm going to give them a go. 2 squads of 8, I believe. 2, 4, 6, 8, 9. I lied. So 2 squads of 9. And the Exarch in this one has the Scorpion's Claw. And that's it for this one. But this squad over here, the Striking Scorpion has the Striking Scorpion Relic. And he has Crushing Blows. Or he should have the Relic. I'm pretty sure I gave it to him. Anyway, he has Crushing Blows at the very least. The Relic just gives him an extra strength on his attack. I'll dig through my thing and check that. But anyway, so he has the Relic and Crushing Blows, which means any hit rolls he make automatically wound, which is pretty interesting. Then I have the Fire Dragons, a squad of 6. They all have obviously their Dragon Fusion guns. The Exarch has the Fire Pike. And they also have the Dragon's Fury Shrine Relic, which means anyone trying to charge them has a -2. And I gave him the upgraded gun, or the points thing for the Exarch. So basically, if my Fire Dragons shoot at anything within 9 inches, if they hit, they automatically wound, which will be real nasty. Behind them, I have the Warp Spiders, a full squad of 10, because they're kind of pumping out super mean this time around. It looks like. We'll see. I gave him the Spider's Bite Claws, which are the Relic. Oh, yeah, that's right. That's why only the Striking Scorpion guy has it. Oh, maybe he doesn't. Anyway, not important. So he has the Relic Power Blades, which are just slightly stronger. And they do have I upgraded them with the squad ability thing, so basically they can teleport again in the battle sometime to wherever. And yes, that is it for them essentially. Then I have my Swooping Hawks. Now, I didn't give him the Relic, but I did give him the Hawk's Talon, and I gave them Winged Evasion, which means each time someone tries to shoot at them, they have -1 on that hit roll no matter what. So hopefully that'll keep them alive. I also have 3 Shroud Runners. I figure, they're very Aeldari-like. Now, I didn't have the models for them, so these are just, the models are jet bike models, but I'm pretty sure that's the right size anyway. And so I'll see what they can do. I'm a little curious how you put snipers on a jet bike and they're any good, so we'll find out. And then moving into kind of the heavies, I know I jumped from elites to fast attack. So I have 1 Falcon. He has obviously the pulse laser, and I gave him a star cannon. And I'm going to use him. Oh, and I gave him the Spirit Stones, so he has double the amount of wounds as far as determining what profile to use. So basically, he'll be useful for longer, essentially. And I'm pretty curious, because I'm curious to see how that Cloud Strike works out. He's going to be transporting my Fire Dragons, and so that'll be kind of cool.
So they can move and drop?
No, basically, he comes out of Deep Strike within 9 inches, and he can drop anyone automatically when he arrives. Mm-hmm. So it's basically a once per game. But what that means is that he can show up and drop something, and then they can do whatever it is that they were designed to do, which is beat the mess out of something. And then I have 2 sets of support weapons. The Vibro Cannons got reworked, so I have 1 squad of Vibro Cannons. Basically, in a squad of 3, they automatically hit, and I believe I get to reroll, and I get +1 to wound rolls. For enemies that are targeted by all 3. And then behind them I have a squad of D-Cannons, which are super mean. And that is 2,000 points of Aeldari.
Alright, so we rolled 3-1, Tide of Conviction for the mission. It's Control 2, Control 3, Control More. And we have to control opponent's objectives. We get 2 points at the end of each of our turns if we control an objective that's on our opponent's territory. And at the end of the game, we'll gain 4 points if we control our opponent's home objective, and we gain an extra 2 points per additional objective at the very last turn. And we do not get our CP at the start of the command phase if we don't control our starting objective. So that's a big thing to remember. Alright. So for deploying the terrain, my idea going forward was I have a lot of infantry, not that many vehicles, so I want to have as much cover as I can because I'm supposing my opponent is a very shooty army. So I want to be able to move from cover to cover and then just rapidly get into melee and have some clear lanes for my few trucks to go through. So that's the overall idea I had.
Yeah, so for me, basically, I'm going to try and be super sneaky. So I wanted as many buildings to be able to roll from cover to cover as much as possible, and shoot and basically try and do sneaky Eldar shenanigans. So I figured buildings was the way to go, and we'll see.
Alright, so for secondaries, because I have kind of a horde army, I intend to go forward. I'm going to do engage in all fronts. Raise the banners high because I have many individual units. A lot of those grots, right, they're going to pay for their points somehow. And then grind them down, although it's a little unlikely. It's really hard to find that third one. And so grind them down might be it, but I might be wrong.
Oh, I hope you're wrong, because I also took grind them down. I did engage in all fronts because, again, I have super mobile, super sneaky Eldar. And I assume engage in all fronts will be an easy one as long as I'm paying attention to it. It is highly likely I will forget about it entirely. Grind them down because I'm an elite army, so ideally I'm killing more than I'm getting killed. But again, we'll see. And Nachman data. Really, again, it's just the same concept. I'm super mobile, so I figure I might be able to have a unit just sit and do something for a turn. I don't know. It was, again, it was one of those third ones that I was like, I don't really know what to do with it. So, Nachman data, it is.
Alright, so I noticed that deployment, there's very little terrain actually for me. So overall, my opponent got to be defender and went first, and basically was able to take some of the more prominent areas because he had people who deployed in the middle, and so did I, so it was a back and forth. I was able to place most of my commandos in relatively safe positions where they could do some stuff. And then the rest of my army was just trying to find cover and stuff to hide. The Gretchen are practically worthless for me, so they have the most disposable areas. A gas goal is in a position where you can go 50-50 in another direction, as well as a lot of other elements of my army as well. So we'll see how that goes. And two of my Stormbow units are in reserves, and the Knobs and Berta boys are off in their trucks. So that's my deployment, essentially.
Yeah, so being super sneaky, I tried to take some more forward positions that would give me, because I saw that he had commando, so I was like, okay, well, what do I want out of this? And I was like, I don't know. So I started kind of taking up positions near objectives that were still in buildings because I'm both a Aeldari and Eldar, which means they're going to be ridiculous to move from a distance and in terrain, particularly. And then everything else, so like the Striking Scorpions, they could deploy within 9 inches of people for like first turn charges. My Shroud Runner bikes have a free move in the before the first turn begins. And then I have a bunch of units that are in reserve. So my Warp Spiders, I have a squad of 10 Rangers, and my Falcon with the Fire Dragons. Really to be super responsive, and hopefully do some terrible things to him in response. But of course he's Orks, and they just run forward and punch things. So we'll see how sneaky of an army I can be when their only goal is to get in my face.
Alright, so deciding on who would go first. Now, honestly, going first is a very big deal. You're shooty, I'm very movey and punchy, and I have great reach with all my stuff. So mostly what bothers me is your artillery. I won't be able to, well, I might be able to hit it in my first turn. I can work miracles with some of my guys, but
it is unlikely.
But theoretical. Because of the positions of your Striking Scorpions, which I didn't know they could set up so early.
They really pumped them in this book.
Yeah, because they've been trashed.
I'm still Eldar, so they're still squishy if they get cut out, but
I mean,
we'll see.
You can be more out more openly because I don't really have shooting, so you can be that kind of aggressive. But overall, it seems that with your striking scorpions and stuff, it's whoever gets the first turn gets to clear the mid-board first.
Yeah.
Essentially. I mean, I have some counterplays for that if you go first, but overall, I'll take a lot of damage if I do not go first, essentially.
Well, what you said is exactly why I want to go first.
Well,
I want to be able to peel off and destroy as much as I can. And so, yeah. So I mean, that first turn would be great. I'm not super worried if I don't get the first turn. I'm not actually tremendously worried about my mid board. I know you've got some speedy moves. But for the most part, the things that are really out there that you could really take on are combat. Like these striking scorpions, or even these ones over here by the commandos. Rangers I'm not super worried about, but also they're kind of expendable. So I'm not super worried first or second turn, but I would like the first turn.
Alright.
Ready for this?
Wait, hold on. First, I'm going to set the dice to 6 in case it freezes again on me.
Oh my goodness.
Ooh. 2.
I got a 1.
I go first! Yes! Alright. And so, Aeldari 9 CP to my 12 CP. Alright, so let's begin the game.
Alright guys, so basically pre-game I used a stratagem called Phantasm, and it's for all Aeldari. Basically, it allows me to set up really aggressively with some units, and then if I don't get the first turn, I can use it, and it allows me to either put them in strategic reserves, or it allows me to just redeploy them somewhere on the map. So I opted to just pull them. And we'll see if that was a good idea or not. But now he has even less targets that he can focus in on.
Yeah, that was actually a big deal. I didn't know about that. Thanks for that heads up. So because I placed a lot of my units to counterplay, and so essentially he would have lost probably guaranteed 3 units minimum on the first turn just because of all the counterplay. But now he has so much in reserves and stuff, it's going to be very tricky to move forward. So I can see this being very important in tournaments easily.
Yeah.
Alright, well, that made things a bit difficult with all his troops moving, so that greatly changed my plan. So basically, I'm trying to move into every coordinate, trying to get to cover. It's mostly just the artillery, but I am making sure my Gretchen are sort of like being used as blocking, so for deep strikes. And so lots of running. I basically tried to move everything I could from cover to cover. One thing that's noticeable is that my commandos, I did move them up 2 units to try to pincer the only troops he has left in the mid-board. The rest of my soldiers moved up. Gaskell moved up. He's within range of the Pain Boy. Makari's on his own. And then basically all the Gretchen are now doing banners. So we'll see how that goes. Alright. No one was in range that could shoot anything, which was just my Def Dreads with their flamers. They did not have range on anything, so all that was left was my 2 units of commandos who just shot at the Rangers, did absolutely nothing, did 1 wound, but they saved it, and then my other commando shot at those riders and did nothing. Alright, and my pincer movement succeeded. My commandos were able to hit the Rangers that are under those Shroud Runners at the bottom, and my other unit of commandos was able to charge the Shroud Runners, because one of them was also on the ground on the outside, so that made it very easy to reach. Alright, so in combat, the first squad swung against those Rangers, and only the commando swung, not the Knob. They did 11 wounds and successfully killed out the entire squad. Then the purple squad moved in to swing. Once they piled in, they swung onto the, whatever these guys are, these jet bikes, yeah, these Shroud Runners, and the regular Knobs was able to successfully kill only 1. My opponent rolled really good on his saves. And then my Knob got to go and successfully killed 1 and did 2 wounds to the other because of Goffs. He rolled 2 6s and got 2 exploding 6s, so. And then he swung back with his Shroud Runner, but my commandos survived because they're touching terrain, so they get +2 to their armor save, and he rolled a 5, so. They were pretty good, and that was a very good fight phase.
Alright, so basically my Shroud Runner just has to take 1. I need anything but a 6.
On a 6, he's gone. Nope, he's good. Okay, for points, I do have 2 points for engaged in all fronts. I'm in 3 out of 4 quarters. I don't have raised the banners yet. I'm getting them. Grind them down will be at the end of the turn, but I do have control of one of my opponent's territory objectives at the end of my turn, which starts at the first turn as well. So I gain 2 points from the mission objective. And it's a good start, but we'll see how things go. He has like almost none of his army out, and a huge army is about to show up, so we'll see how that goes.
So basically, I just had super simple movements, just little tweaks here and there, and the Swooping Hawks are doing Nachman data, so that's about it.
Yeah, very simple.
Alright guys, so essentially for my Psychic phase, I guided Illic Night Spear, and that is it. Alright guys, so for shooting, I did a couple of things. The first one is the D cannons evaporated one of his Death Dreads, just melted it off the face of the planet.
Yeah.
Then my Vibro cannon shot at his other one and took it down to just 1 wound. And so I made a call, and I had Illic Night Spear finish it off because he has 1 shot that does a lot of damage, surprisingly. And so I killed off a second Death Dread. Then my Shroud Runner that ran away earlier, I used Feigned Retreat, which allowed him to shoot. With his sniper, he tried to take some damage on the Pain Boy, but he missed. He has a 2 ballistic skill, and he missed. And then he shot at the Gretchen, and with all 6 of the Scatter Laser shots, he managed to pull off 5 wounds and just killed 5 Gretchen. Not that that's an achievement, but that's what happened. Alright guys, so since this is the first battle round, no primaries, I didn't get any of the mission secondaries, but I did get some points for all of them. So I got 2 points on Engage in All Fronts, I got 3 points for Grind Them Down, because I killed 2 Death Dreads and he was only able to kill 1 full squad. So those are 2 points for me, and I got 1 Nachman data, which I'll just mark and then do the points at the end.
Alright, so this was a bit more complicated because I know I'm going to have a huge army show up out of nowhere, so this was mostly me trying to screen to the best of my ability while maintaining some stuff. So my Gretchen moved out, spread out to try to block more. Other Gretchen moved in to do stuff that also, all the Gretchen that are on objectives, they didn't run, so they will be doing their actions since I gained 3 points from that. My commandos ran up. I called a wall this turn, by the way, and which allows me to run and shoot, which also increases greatly my shooting because I have Gas Skull, because he gives me the ability to use both wall abilities. So the commandos ran up. They're going to try to destroy the support weapons. The Storm Boys moved up, trying to destroy those other support weapons. Honestly, it's mostly a bunch of strategic movement, trying to screen as much as I can and protect the most important things here and there. So it's a lot of thinking goes on here. Alright, so I only have 1 guy who's going to shoot, and it is Boss Zagstruck to fire at the 1 Shadow Runner. He has Assault D3, and he had 2 shots, but he rolled 2 1s, so nothing hit. Alright, so for charges, the commandos on the right charged the support weapons, but he overwatched and his attacks auto hit, and he pretty much just deleted the unit outright. I forgot that they auto hit. And then at the bottom, my Boss Zagstruck charged the Shroud Runner, and the opponent spent a CP to do some sort of high wire grenade thing, but only successfully did 1 mortal wound against me and subtracted my charge by 1, but I already rolled a 6, so that was more than enough to get in. And then after that, my Storm Boys charged in, and they made it on a 3. Good thing they were right there. Alright, well, that was interesting. So the Storm Boys swung on the support weapons, and they were only able to kill 1. It has 5 wounds. So that happened. And whatchamacallit? And then my Boss Zagstruck on the bottom just obliterated that 1 biker. And so that was it for my fight phase. So far, a very uneventful game. Alright, we forgot to have the support weapon swing back, and so, well, they did a lot of damage. They killed 3 guys. 3 plus 5, that's 8. That fails, and 1 Storm Boy left. That was a harsh morale. Alright, for points, I controlled 2, controlled 3, controlled more. I get an extra 2 points because of Tie to Conviction. I control the front 2 ones. I got 3 successful Raise the Banners high, and I have 4 more on the way. I did not get Grind Them Down. I screw that, but I did get a full engage on all fronts, as I have a unit in every single round, or quarter. So far it is looking my way, but he has his entire army to show up. I've done my best to screen, so this is really right now the turn this upcoming turn is the one that'll really make the game.
Alright, you guys, so essentially for this turn, what's it called? A lot of my deep strikes came in, but let me talk about some of the movement first. Illic again moved up just to peek out the window. The swooping hawks swooped, over here. And the support weapons popped out from combat. The Farseer came down to basically face off against this boss knob that hopefully he will kill. We will find out. What also happened, everything came in from reserves except for my 10-man squad of rangers. So the Falcon came in, and because he's a Cloud Striker, the Fire Dragons were able to pop out immediately, which is very nice. The Striking Scorpions with the Scorpion Claw popped out next to the Falcon. The Warp Spiders also appeared by these Gretchen, and they were able to also fight. Or, no, not fight. And so they popped up by these Gretchen, as did the other Striking Scorpions by the Gretchen and the Commandos. And then my small Ranger squad popped up in the corner, and they are attempting Nakman Data. And actually, that was it, really. Took a while, but that was essentially all that happened. So for my sidekick phase, I guided my swooping hawks, and I tried to smite this boss knob so I wouldn't have to try and deal with him otherwise. Did not work, so he's still alive. I command point rerolled it, the smite as well, and it still didn't work, so a whole lot of nothing there. Alright, you guys, so for my shooting, it actually went really well. So first off, everything came in, obviously. So what I started with was a command ability Feigned Retreat, and the D cannons shot his truck up top, and they melted it. And then my Fire Dragons shot the truck down here, also melting it. And then who shot next? The Swooping Hawks over here shot at the Burner Boys that came out of it, and they wiped them out. And then the Striking Scorpions tried to shoot some of these knobs. Pretty sure they all failed. It was pathetic. And the Falcon split fire his Shuriken catapults on the boss knob here, and his other guns, the Star Cannon and the Pulse Cannon, into the Commandos. He managed to kill one whole Commando. The Farseer shot at the boss knob, and he did basically nothing with his one shot. Oh no, he did do something. He took 1 wound. That was nice, because I rolled a 6 on the wound, so it just went straight through. I'm just going to kind of move across the map here. Illic Night Spear shot at his character up at the bottom, or I say up at the bottom, down at the bottom, and he was able to take off 4 of his wounds, because he rolled really bad on that D3 mortal wounds. He could have. But anyway, so the support cannons then finished what he started and wiped the guy off. The Warp Spiders wiped out this squad of Gretchen here. And then that was really it for shooting. And then the Battle Focus move. What Battle Focus? Yes, Battle Focus moves. Basically, the
Did you guys finish?
Night Spear moved 4 inches back into terrain because Gazgul is very close. And then because there are no Gretchens here anymore, the Swooping Hawks were able to jump back all the way into that corner there to just be hooligans. And yeah, that was my shooting phase. All in all, pretty good, actually. Alright guys, so for charges, the Farseer got in, and nobody else.
He failed every
Literally.
single charge. He had 3 charges with all his Striking Scorpions and his Warp Spiders. All of them
Yeah.
failed to make a 9.
All of them.
Indeed.
All right, you guys. So the Farseer did 2 damage and killed him. 1 wound got through, and so
Well, he didn't even
that was
have a
nice.
save. 1 at -1, and he had 1 wound left. It was over.
That's all I needed.
Mhm.
Alright guys, so for points, my primaries are non-existent, as is the mission's secondary. Now, I did manage to get 2 points for engage on all fronts. I got grind them down, and I got another Nachman data. So, I guess I'm doing okay on secondaries. It's just the primaries.
Primaries,
But-
you got... Oh yeah, you had to control 2. You didn't get that.
Yeah, so... But... with how spread out your back line is, next turn, I guess halfway through the game or whatever, battle round 4, I'll be able to start collecting primaries, I hope.
Yeah. Alright then. Alright, so for my movement phase, this was the big one. I had to counter move, put everything into being able to handle my opponent. So... Alright, so... My knobs moved up to intercept. My Gretchen moved to better protect themselves. I did manage to gain 4 points from Raise the Banners High in total. And then now the commandos who were doing that on his objective moved up to encounter the striking scorpions, and the other Gretchen moved up to start doing the thing. Gaskell moved up to charge the support weapons, but he positioned himself in a way that he can't be overwatched. And then, that's pretty much it. My Def Dread, the melee one, moved over to support the right side. And, that's pretty much it. And then when my reserves came in, my Storm Boys, the Yellow Squad came in, because it's my deployment zone, I can actually get into combat, deployed from reserves in combat. And so, the Swooping Hawks automatically are in combat because they're within 6 inches of the board edge, and I can do that because it's my board edge. And then, because it's turn 3, I brought in the other Storm Boys up top, but they immediately got shot up because apparently, so since he had an extra unit of Pathfinders or Scouts, whatever, that he was able to bring them in within 18 inches of my guys and just shoot them up for free. So that's an interesting effect.
Gotta shoot him up.
Yeah. Alright. And, well, we'll see how this goes, because it's really 50-50 right now, so we'll see how the game goes. Alright, so for shooting phase, I have very little that can actually do anything. So, Gaskell fired at the Pathfinders, or the Rangers that came in, with his Mork's Roar, killed 3 of them. Then I had 1 unit of Commandos fire at the Striking Scorpions, and they successfully killed 1. And, yeah, that was pretty good. Alright, it's time for the Orks to do what they do best. Get into combat. So, this was a bad example, but up top, the Storm Boys charged the Rangers and failed. 9-inch charge they couldn't do. But, on positive news, the Knobs at the bottom successfully charged the Striking Scorpions, got in. The Gaskell charged the support weapons, got in. The Commandos charged the Striking Scorpions, got in. The other Commandos charged the Fire Dragons. Now, they have -2 to charge, but I only needed a 5. And, so far looking pretty good, but, well, they're not going to delete any of these units. Alright, so combat. Finally, the Orks get to do what they're supposed to do. So, Gaskell, I start off with a big guy swings, and I completely forget that he's Goffs and that he has exploding 6s. I think I rolled a 6 in there somewhere. But he managed to kill all the support platforms except for 1, which has 1 wound left. Then, I just moved right to left, or something like that. So, the Commandos on the right swung and completely wiped out the entire squad of Striking Scorpions here. Then they piled into the Rangers to tie them up and hopefully stop them. And then on the left side, I had my Knobs swing on the Striking Scorpions, and despite having many more attacks and having Power Claws, there is a survivor. Their Exarch survived. Then the Commandos up top swinging on the Fire Dragons successfully killed all of them except the Exarch, so he survived as well. And, and at the bottom, so because the Storm Boys, they came in, but because they were within 6 inches of base, I was able to show up in, from reserves. Issue was they didn't actually charge. They just basically were in combat. And so he was able to swing first, and he managed to kill 2 of them because their toughness 5 really saved them. Then they swung back and killed 7 of them. So that was pretty good. I'm still under the effects of Wa. This is the last turn of Wa. And yeah, his swings back. His support weapon swung on Gazgul, did nothing. His Striking Scorpion Exarch swung against the Knobs and killed 1 of them. The other Exarch swung against the Commandos, did nothing. And then the Rangers swung on the Commandos since they were brought in combat, and they successfully killed 2. And so, overall, I really crippled a lot of his extra forces, but so we'll see what happens. Alright, this morale phase was actually a big deal for cleaning up squads. So my Commandos on the right that took a bunch of casualties from the Rangers, they rolled a 1, so they were completely good. His Exarch, the Striking Scorpion Exarch in front of the Knobs, he failed his morale test, so he had to go. And then the Fire Dragon fighting the Commandos above him also failed, so he had to go. They had such high casualties that they had to roll a 1. They didn't. On the bottom, my Storm Boys took casualties, so on a 5-up they would fail. They didn't. And then he rolled for his Swooping Hawks, and they failed, and 1 failed an attrition test, so 2 more of them left. And yeah, that was a devastating morale phase. Alright, that was a pretty good turnaround, and my points are really looking good. I got massive on primaries. I got an extra 2 points for Tide of Conviction, because I do control one of their objectives. I got another 3 points for Engage in All Fronts. I successfully got 4 Raise the Banners this turn, and I have 4 more on the way. But I don't know about Grind them down yet. I have to wait till the end of my opponent's turn, so we'll see how that goes. But so far, it's looking pretty good.
Hi guys, so basically I just did some adjusting. My Falcon moved closer to the Knobs, but also on the objective, as did my Farseer. Support weapons moved farther, the D weapon ones moved farther away from Gazgul. Illic moved forward so he could see and shoot. The Warp Spiders popped up onto this objective, and the Swooping Hawk Exarch ran. And that was it. Hi guys, so my Farseer guided Illic Nightspear, my HQ, and then he doomed these Knobs over here. And that was it. Alright guys, so for shooting, my Warp Spiders rolled a crazy amount of dice and melted his Death Dread like it was crazy. My Rangers with their pistols only killed 1 commando. My other Rangers, the squad of 5, shot with their rifles, only killed 1 of the Storm Boys. Then Illic was going to shoot his Pain Boy, but he command pointed with the Gretchen, so he just retargeted to Gazgul.
Yeah, I used Grot shields. For 2 CP, it basically, you have to shoot at the Grots before you can shoot at this infantry. And so I have so much command points, it doesn't matter to me.
Yeah. And then the D cannon shot and it killed
2 Knobs.
Two Knobs. Mm-hmm. And then the Falcon shot and it killed 2 more Knobs. And so that was... Oh, and the Swooping Hawk Exarch. I used a command point and he was able to kill off 3 of that squad, I think. 2. Whatever was left that wasn't the boss Knob. So, yeah. That was shooting. So for my charges, my Warp Spiders got into his Gretchen. And my Rangers rolled an 11 and got in on this 1 boss Knob. Alright, you guys, so for combat, a whole lot of nothing really happened, except the Warp Spider. So the Warp Spider started off, they killed 9 out of 10 Gretchen. I was hoping for the 10th, but just 1 too many bum rolls. The Rangers, here the bigger squad, killed 2 commandos, and he killed 3 Rangers. And then the squad of 5 Rangers didn't do anything to that last boss Knob commando guy.
Yeah, my commando swung back.
I guess he's not a commando. He's a
yeah, he's
whatever he is.
My commando swung back against the Rangers, killed 3 of them, and that was about it. Yeah. All right. So for morale phase, this one was a bit of a doozy. So first up, my Knobs had to take 1. They lost 4 guys, and they rolled a 1, so they're sticking here. Then my commandos on the right, fighting the Rangers, had to take 1 only on a 6 would they actually lose. They're fine. Then the Gretchen, I spent 2 CP to make him stay in combat, so that was good. Then he had his Rangers, who were fighting my Commandos, take one, and he failed it and lost one guy. He made all of his attrition tests. And yeah, so far, very good.
Alright, you guys, so for my secondaries, I got 2 points for Tide of Conviction, I got 2 points on Engage in All Front, and that was it. I wasn't able to do Nachman data or grind them down.
However, for this turn, I was able to grind them down because I won this time. He wiped out one of my units, and me spending 2 CP to make that Grot stay stopped him from wiping out another unit. And so I wiped out 3 to his 1, and I got grind him down finally for this turn. Yeah.
Yep.
Alright, we are calling it there because of the huge lead of the Orks. And so, Orks victory by just consistently being there and holding the objectives. Alright, so for MVP, LVP, for my LVP, I have a runner-up, which is Gazskull. He's not the LVP, but he showed up, killed 2 weapon platforms, and did nothing else. So just because of who he is and what he should have been doing, he was a huge investment in points, and I feel the meta is slowly shifting away from very heavily concentrated points. I mean, if this was a different army, this would have been a bigger thing. He just underperformed, but he wasn't the true LVP. The true LVP is the Def Dreads, because they showed up, killed no one, and got blown up. They all just died. Each turn, they all just died and did nothing.
That's right.
And MVP, in an incredible twist of fate, I'd have to give it to the Gretchens. Absolutely, the Gretchens are the winners here because they held all the objectives. There's so many of them. There were 6 units of them. They held objectives. They screened out all the reinforcements from the Aeldari, and they were doing raise the banners consistently on 3 to 4 objectives at different points in the game. They were just earning me points, so they on their own brought me 10 points, 9 technically just from them. One of the commando units helped me get 1, but these guys helped me get 9 victory points. They screened out heavily, so that's the thing I'm finding about the Orks, is it's not like this one whole unit did it. It's more of like the ensemble. Everyone's doing their job, and Gretchen did their job so everyone else could, which I think is a sign of a pretty good internally balanced codex when there's not one thing that you must always bring to win. So Gretchen are my MVP. So what do you got?
For my MVP, I actually really dug the Warp Spiders. They came in, I mean, sure, they hit Gretchens the first round, but they melted those Gretchen.
Yeah.
Not that that's a challenge, but, and then they came in and they killed the Def Dread as well, and then they were able to, in combat, just take off almost all of them. The Exarch did some bad rolling, and so 1 lived, but, they came in and they were really nasty when they did.
Yeah.
LVPs were probably the Rangers. I mean, they weren't really supposed to do a whole lot anyway, but they really took that to scraping the bottom of the barrel on it. They did. It was kind of pathetic. I was expecting them to do just a little more, not a lot more, but just a little more.
Yeah.
I think most of my army actually did really well at what it was trying to do. The only thing that did not work out for me was that one turn where I failed all of the charges.
Yeah.
That was bad, and then I think that's what swung the game, because if they had gotten in, they would have, the striking Scorpions, it would have probably looked pretty different on the
because thinking
battlefield.
back, I don't know what they do yet. It's like
They've gotten really nasty, at least on paper.
So they are theoretically nasty. I have yet to see it.
And so that wasn't great, but I think that's starting to, for me, be how I need to, so if they're coming in from Deep Strike or reserves or whatever, I think, because 9 inches is actually quite far, that unless I have some kind of charge boost for them, I think I'm going to not try and bring them into combat on that first turn, because it's just, it's either they charge and kill what they're aiming at, or they fail and then they get charged and then they die miserably.
So I do agree with your unit choices, like MVP, Warp Spiders. Yeah, they wiped out 3 units, and they would have wiped out the Gretchen. They would have died, but I spent 2 CP to keep them there just for strategic uses. So they obliterated, without any real issue, 3 separate units in 2 turns, and they strategically took a place and got you 2 victory points. So they were very important. The Rangers, I think, is mostly because of where they were set up. they were never used to suppress my characters. If that unit of like 8 or 10 rangers was on the board with their range of like, 36 inches, they could have probably just wiped out my Pain Boy just outright.
Well, the problem is I was going to have Illic do it, but he was like right behind Gazgul, so he couldn't really see him.
Which was kind of the point. He was Gazgul's medic, because I thought you'd be trying to kill Gazgul. Instead, you ignored him the entire game.
Yeah, well, he can only take 4 damage a phase, and the only damage I have is shooting, really. Unless I wanted to try and charge something in, but I wouldn't unless he had only 4 wounds left. So I was like, well, he's slow, and I can't really do anything to him without putting, like, my whole army on it. So I was like, I'm just going to focus on other stuff.
Yeah, so that was the right call to do. I do feel Gazgul was sort of wasted, and, like, that extra points could have gone into a bike squad or something else to help. But I will say, those D cannons, really, I'm surprised they were not the MVP, because they wiped out the Death Dread. They destroyed the Knob's vehicles, which would allow them to get even further back. All these things.
So they're really, really good. But that's normally kind of their thing. So it wasn't surprising to me what they did. The Warp Spider surprised me a bunch. So that's why I chose them as the MVP. D cannons are just like they're so mean. And they don't need line of sight to do it either. But all in all, I liked how this army played and put itself together. I think there was a few mishaps on my side with the striking scorpions and maybe even the fire dragons. I probably put them a little too close. I probably should have gave them a different thing. I thought the within 9 inches would auto wound was pretty cool, but I didn't even get a chance to use that. So but yeah, no, I think I actually liked the way this army played. And I think having all of the things, like having them show up from reserves and being able to jump around and move around was actually pretty convenient.
Yeah, one thing I will say is though is that I think it was a detriment to you to have all of your like almost your entire army gone, because I was just able to immediately move up and claim the entire board with no resistance in the first 2 turns. I mean, sure, getting rid of the few guys up top allowed me to go all the way forward with charges, but I was able to just sweep the board, and that really put huge
but that
win.
was kind of the idea, because then it would pull things out of place, and then I could come along with my striking scorpions, but of course they all failed the charges, and so the plan fell apart.
It's hard to say,
because the shooting units, they all came in, they all did what they were doing, like they had no issues. But it was the melee units that were supposed to come in and really kind of clinch, over here and over here. But that didn't happen, and then they got destroyed. So that was the problem. So that's the challenge. And so first turn, like I had it to where they would do first turn charges essentially. But because I lost it, I was like, okay, well, I can pull them up and then I can re-put them wherever later. And so I got to figure out a way maybe to work on counter charges, or I guess positioning them in a place that, okay, this turn when they come in, they're not gonna come in for combat, but they'll be able to on the next turn. That's probably how I need to do it.
That's a huge portion. That's kind of half of the most important parts of the game where they're out. So
but those first 2 turns you were losing units like crazy.
Yeah.
So that was like the shooting on the army really did what it was doing.
And that was only a very small portion of your army too.
Yeah. So I thought that was really cool. Even the vibro cannons handling those commandos with the Overwatch was, because they auto hit and they had +1 to wound. That was kind of crazy.
Yeah.
And then they have 7 attacks. I still don't understand, but
yeah,
it's in the book, so.
Right. Yeah, that's actually quite surprising.
Yeah. The swooping hawks, I think they got lamed a little bit, just being close to the border and then just having someone come in and just start in combat. I think that was unfortunate.
Yeah, but is it technical part of the rules?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, if I had remembered, I wouldn't have put them there. I would have moved them somewhere else where they could just have kept going around because they're really hard to pin down now that they can just up and move.
Yeah, so the Eldar have a lot of tricks. I can see how they can become a very tournament counter. Well, they can counter every army with their movements, and they can be at the right place at the right time. That's probably the biggest thing that makes them very important.
And then even the Rangers being able to counter deep strike.
Well,
that was interesting.
Yeah.
Even though they did almost nothing.
But I will say, though, despite all those tricks, despite all the deception and all the trickery, all the Orcs had to do was run forward and bonk them, and victory was achieved. And that's... that's... Game literally went according to lore. Eldar pulled tons of tricks, Orcs just go forward and bonk, and victory.
Yeah. So, yeah, but again, it was the striking scorpions that really kind of broke the chain there. Because the shooting was going really, really well. Except the Falcon, really.
The Falcon, yeah, that Falcon dropped the ball hard. But the fact that you had so few of your targets on the board, if more of them would have stayed, you would have lost huge portions of your army the first or second turn. First, especially because the Burna Boys would have just obliterated a single unit.
Yeah.
Well, all right. GG's. Well, see you all next week.